What's up, YouTube? Zero here, and today I have an electrifying build of Zapdos and Magnezone in Pokemon TCG Pocket. In this video, I'll go over the deck build, which is on the left-hand side of the screen. I'll say why this is amazing, and I'll talk about the build itself, why all of these cards work well together, and how you can win with this deck. Before I get into it, I do want to say, if you do enjoy this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more Pokemon TCG content. I do a bunch of other video games, so feel free to check those out as well. Without further ado, let's talk about the deck. All you need is a pair of Zapdoses, EXs, and the Magnezone Evolution line. ×2, of course. Now, one thing to note about that evolution line, of course, this is an electric deck, so you are going to want to go with electric energy, and what's most important is the electric Magneton that has a volt charge. That is critical. The Magnemite isn't going to matter as much. There are 2 Magnemites in the game right now. However, the one that really is preferred for this deck is the one that has 1 electric energy for Lightning Ball at 20. I know that there are other Magnemites that have colorless energy to deal damage, and you're not going to be dealing as much damage. So utilize the Magnemite that's dealing 20 damage, because if you do start with a Magnemite, you can get a little bit of some damage on your enemies. So start with the Lightning Ball 20 Magnemite. But what's more important is that Magneton with the volt charge. That's going to be crucial for this build and also for Magnezone. So that is a key to this deck. Let's talk about the Pokemon first, and then I'll talk about the support cards. Zapdos EX requires no explanation. It's an EX card, and it's a very powerful EX card. For 1 lightning energy or electric energy, you're going to be dealing 20 damage with Peck. So that's not bad to start out. You can see Magnemite's also dealing 20 damage for 1 energy. So that's about typical for 1 energy. What's more important for Zapdos EX is the 3 energy, in which you can flip 4 coins, and however many heads you get, you deal 50 damage to the opponent. This can absolutely be epic. Zapdos himself can run through an entire enemy deck and win you the game just by playing Zapdos first. There have been multiple games where I got my Zapdos first, and I was able to run through my opponent with just my Zapdos, which is absolutely awesome. Of course, with the 4 coin flips times by your 50, you can do up to 200 damage with Zapdos, which means you can KO any Pokemon in the game if you are lucky enough, at least as of right now. However, there is a drawback to that. You get 4 coin flips. If all of them are tails, you of course are going to be doing 0 damage, and I have had that happen before. I've had both happen. Of course, both are unlikely, and it's more likely you at least get 1 heads, but there is a possibility of 0 damage, also a possibility of 200. If the game follows the law of large numbers, and a coin flip is truly in this game programmed to be a 50% chance, on average you're going to be dealing about 100 damage for your Zapdos, which is about on par with what 3 energy is on other Pokemon. I'm thinking of Gengar EX with Spooky Shot for 100 is one that comes to the top of mind because I do utilize him a lot. And one you're seeing on this clip right now, the Garchomp EX for 3 energy, you're also dealing 100. So it is pretty standard dealing 100 for 3 energy. So that's going to be the average amount of damage. But you do have that added bonus of maybe dealing 150 or 200, with of course the drawback of potentially dealing 50 or 0. Now let's talk about the Magnezone line. Magneton with Volt Charge is extremely important because you can be building up energy on 2 Pokemon at once. While your Zapdos is in the active spot dealing damage, you can charge Zapdos up with the energy from the Energy Zone. Volt Charge takes an energy from the Energy Zone and puts it on Magneton. So now you're charging up your Magneton while also charging up your Zapdos. This is almost a 2-for-1 deal, which is absolutely fantastic because you don't have to worry about where you need to put your energy. You can take the energy you are given once per turn and put it on your Zapdos, and then Magneton itself can take an energy from the Energy Zone with Volt Charge and charge up as well. So that's going to be absolutely important because you're going to be able to charge up both of your powerful Pokemon at once. So if one does go down, or if you need to swap one out, maybe you want to put your Zapdos back on the bench, then you're going to have your Magnezone ready and waiting to deal the damage, which is absolutely awesome. That's what makes this deck great. It's very simple, but very great because you can charge up both of your powerful Pokemon at once and go to town on your enemies with either or. Either your Zapdos is doing the damage or your Magnezone is doing the damage after, of course, you've charged up your Magnezone with Magneton. And you can kind of pick and choose depending on how the game is playing out, which Pokemon you want to use. I love this build, very easy, but very effective and can win you a lot of games. Now next, let's talk about the supporting cast. Pokeball and Professor's Research are a staple of a lot of decks right now. Professor's Research is going to allow you to draw 2 cards, helping you get all of your cards in your hand quicker. And Pokeball is going to allow you to draw 1 basic Pokemon. So of course, that's going to help you get either your Zapdos on the bench or your Magnemite on the bench quicker if you haven't been able to draw one of those 2 basic Pokemon. So those are crucial. Cyrus is another crucial card in this game right now. A lot of enemies are going to try to hide a weakened Pokemon on the bench. Cyrus is going to make it so the opponent cannot do that. I love Cyrus, has won me a lot of games with enemies believing that they can hide a Pokemon on the bench, so Cyrus is crucial as well. Sabrina is nice, especially early game, because sometimes your opponent is building up energy on their Pokemon. Maybe they have a Rocky Helm. Sabrina's nice so you can switch them out. You don't have to worry about the Rocky Helm. But it's also good end game because sometimes your opponent has built up energy on their main or active Pokemon, so you can force them out into another Pokemon that maybe they don't want in the active spot. Maybe you can catch your enemy before they're able to evolve a Pokemon that's on the bench. So that's what Sabrina is good for. So I do like 1 there, at least 1. You can play around with some of these cards. So I at least like 1 Sabrina. Then that takes me to Giovanni, where I have 2. Giovanni is going to add 10 damage to one of your attacks. Giovanni can play well early game, can also play well late game. Early game can help you get additional damage on Pokemon. Perhaps you're facing a water deck. And of course, this deck is strong against water, but let's not beat around the bush. Let's not play around. Let's go through that water deck quickly. So most water decks, 95% of water decks right now have a Manaphy, which only has 50 HP. If you get a Magnesite or a Zapdos, you're going to be able to one-hit KO as long as that Manaphy doesn't have Giant Cape, because you're going to do 20 plus the additional 20 for the weakness, with Giovanni going to add 10, so it's going to take out that Manaphy. So that's something that's nice. Don't play around with a water deck, because if you let them build up, they can potentially hurt you. So just get that Manaphy out of the way. There are other instances. There are a decent amount of Pokemon that have 120 HP, and that's where you can add the 10 to Magnezone to finish those off. A couple off the top of my head are going to be your Pikachu EX and your Pachirisu EX, both with 120 HP. So that's some instances where having Giovanni is really going to be beneficial. So I do like Giovanni here dealing the extra damage, whether it's early game or late game. Sometimes it depends on the game, but I do like having Giovanni here. You can also couple that with a Rocky Helm, perhaps on your Magnezone. And if you take a hit from your opponent, you have 140 HP, so Magnezone is no slouch when it comes to taking hits. So you have 110, plus your Rocky Helm, which is an additional 20, that's at 130. Then you can add your Giovanni, which is 140. There are a lot of EX Pokemon that have 140 HP, so I don't want to say you can one-hit KO, because essentially you're not one-hitting KO because of the Rocky Helm, but you can more easily take out those Pokemon. You can see on the clip right now, the Snorlax has 140 HP, and you also have the Leafeon on the bench that has 140 HP. A couple of Pokemon where if they decide to hit you, your Magnezone that has a Rocky Helm, you can take them out. So that's why I like the combination of Giovanni and Rocky Helm. That's why I have one Rocky Helm in here. However, I wouldn't mind if you play around with it. Either bring in another Rocky Helm, have two Rocky Helms for maybe instead of the giant cape, or have another Rocky Helm in here instead of the potion. Sometimes the potion is nice, especially when you're taking damage early game, to increase the survivability of your Magnemite or your Zapdos, because both, of course, if you're throwing them in that first slot, you want to try and survive as much as possible so you can charge them up. So the potion can take away at least one hit from an early on Pokemon. Giant Cape is another one, again, increasing survivability like Potion, where you can essentially take away one hit by adding 20 HP to either your Magnemite or your Zapdos. But again, these three, Giant Cape, Rocky Helm, Potion, they're kind of ones that you can play around with. Maybe you want to substitute one out for the other. All of them work well, and of course, they all are situational. Some can be better than others based off of the deck you're facing, but all of them are good and have their place inside of this deck. So that's the deck. Very simple, but very amazing. I've won a lot with this deck because it is so simple and so easy to get your Pokemon going quickly. Zapdos, just start loading the Zapdos up with energy, and then of course, get your Magneton out as quickly as you can. Start Volt Charging so you can have your Magnezone ready to go. And that is the best way to take out your opponents. It's absolutely awesome. I do love it. It's a great deck. Let me know in the comments section if you've tried a Zapdos Magnezone deck that is similar. If you have, let me know what you utilize. Do you have additional Pokemon in this deck? Do you have different supporter cards? I'd love to hear it. If you haven't tried this deck, what do you think of it? Is it one that you're going to put out there and start taking on opponents with? What do you think of Magnezone and Zapdos in general? Are they some of your favorite Pokemon, or are they Pokemon you can take or leave? Thanks for stopping by, and thank you so much for hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing to the channel. I look forward to talking with y'all in the comments section. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and until next time, peace.